Starting in less than 30 seconds, I would say. Okay. So, good afternoon to all of you. My name is Francisco Ferreira. I'm the president of Zero, Association for the Sustainability of the Earth System. It's a Portuguese environmental NGO. And I'm here to moderate this excellent panel until around 4:10, 4:15. I'd like first to acknowledge your participation here today, and at the same time tell you that this is being broadcasted and recorded, and therefore for the ones that are viewing us, I hope you'll watch now or later on this panel on the role of higher education institutions. It's a panel that is basically promoted by two institutions: the National Council for Sustainable Development in Portugal, for Environment and Sustainable Development, which is basically a stakeholder council with the largest representativeness in discussing, debating, and proposing issues in the sustainable development arena, and also by the Nova University of Lisbon, which is one of the most prestigious universities in Portugal. By the way, I'm also a professor there, so I'm supposed to have this extra compensation of salary by saying these things. Just kidding. Okay, so higher education institutions are hubs of knowledge and innovation with a mission of training and inspiring new generations of professionals to tackle and solve the climate crisis. Universities should be the forefront flag to lead global action to limit climate change, namely by taking each student as a change maker. And in 2020, around 40% of the global population have attained some kind of tertiary education. So this event will focus on the higher education institutions' role on delivering adequate education for climate change action and solutions, transversally to all disciplines, from engineering to life sciences and medicine, law and economics to social sciences. So there will be 3 rounds of questions, but before that, I will actually introduce the panelists. I would start with Angie Bone. She is an associate professor of practice in planetary health at Monash Sustainable Development Institute, MSDI. She leads the Environment and Health Strategic Team, focusing particularly on systems transformation for health sector resilience and sustainability and planetary health. Angie is a senior public health physician with extensive public health leadership and research experience, especially concerning environmental influences on health and health equity. She has spent most of her career in government departments and agencies in the UK and Australia, including over 5 years as Deputy Chief Health Officer of Victoria, Australia. You really come from a long distance. I can certainly, I can now go to Elena Korosteleva. Sorry for, but Elena, that part is easy, I believe. She's a professor of politics and global sustainable development. She leads the Institute for Global Sustainable Development and also a newly set up cross-university interdisciplinary sustainability spotlight. In terms of research, she works on resilience as self-governance to understand how communities respond to adversity and crisis in dealing with planetary challenges. She will have a new book, Nurturing Resilience in Central Eurasia, the Role of Communities in the Age of Complexity, with Oxford University Press is coming out in 2025. By the way, she is also a member of the Scientific Council of COP29. And finally, my colleague, Julia Seixas, she is currently the pro-rector at NOVA with the responsibility for the field of sustainability. She's a full professor there. She has a background on environmental engineering, working in at least 2 decades on energy and climate change, coordinating, for instance, the technical support for the Portuguese long-term strategy for carbon neutrality up to 2045, and for the Portuguese government. She is the chair of SDSN, the Sustainable Development Solutions Network Portugal, a network of universities rooted at the United Nations. So, you know, I really think that we have 3 great panelists, women here to actually talk about this challenge of how to engage the higher education institutions in this role. And I will start with a brief question. If you have, and I would start with Angie, if you have to identify the 3 most successful stories in the implementation of the climate agenda on higher education, particularly at your institutions, which success stories would you actually select as the best ones for the others to know about and eventually engage?
Let's try that. That's better. Excellent. Yeah, great question, and really pleased to hear that we're starting with the good things, the success stories, because it's so easy to often focus on the negative in this agenda. So Monash University, for those who don't know, is a pretty big university. We have 9 campuses and locations in 6 different countries, not only Australia, but also Monash, Malaysia, Monash Indonesia, India, China, Italy. And we have about 85,000 students and about 20,000 staff. So we have an enormous footprint. So I think, and we have really orientated ourselves to the great challenges of the age. So everything that we do is focused around 3 challenges. The first is climate change, the second is geopolitical security, and the third is thriving communities. And of course, they all interrelate. In terms of the kind of 3 successes that I would point to, I think the first thing I would say is that Monash was the first university in Australia to set a target for net zero. So we set a target for net zero for 2030. And we've done pretty well, I'd say. We've invested 135 million Australian dollars in that, and we've managed to reduce our emissions by 57% and reduce our energy use by 21.7% from our baseline of 2015 by doing the sorts of things that you'd expect. Electrification of vehicles, electrification of buildings, energy efficiency, etc. The second thing I'd point to is that we really, having this focus on these 3 goals, our research is very mission-orientated. So by that I mean it's transdisciplinary, it's problem-focused and solution-oriented. And we have a range of examples. For example, the revitalising informal settlements and environments is a nature-based solution of co-designing solutions in informal settlements in Indonesia and in Fiji to protect health but also the environment. Another example is our Fire to Flourish project, which is working with indigenous communities in Victoria who have been affected by the terrible fires that we had in 2019 to 2020. And that's very much about community-led disaster recovery and resilience and participatory budgeting, giving the power over to those communities. So that's just 2 examples. And I think, as a result of that, but because we wanted to showcase that, we were the first university in the Indo-Pacific to have a pavilion at COP28. So that's another great success story for us is how many people were able to come and share their experiences and knowledge with us at COP28. And then the third thing I would say is that we have a series of short courses for students that we're calling flagship rich education experiences. There's 3 of them. The Monash Innovation Guarantee allows students 3 weeks to work directly with industry, UN bodies, civil society to solve, to create innovative solutions to sustainability challenges. There's the Research, Experiment and Discovery program, which is also focusing on more research-based, lab-based type solutions. Again, giving students the opportunity to get involved in a project and learn how to translate the research into practice. And then the third one called the Global Immersion Guarantee, which is allowing students 3 weeks in 1 of 8 countries to work with local communities to again solve sustainability challenges. These are hugely oversubscribed projects. They're actually available to all students, and the cost and accommodation are provided for the students, so it's free to them. And our partners really value that fresh, excited, inspirational focus that the youth bring to these sustainability challenges.
Angie, thanks a lot. I think it's quite impressive to know that you have a lot of practical, in-place engagement of the students and the projects, and that is really excellent to go from the theory to practice. And I'll pass on to Elena. Elena, what are the 3 best successes that you have in this topic?
Great. Thank you very much. I wouldn't really take on that mission on commenting about the entire university, because I think, well, first of all, I feel still being new, relatively new to the university, because I started only in 2022 at Warwick. And I know that Warwick is absolutely amazing in leading the whole range of initiatives across, just to mention, Warwick Manufacturing Group engaging with energy renewals, but also sustainability materials, sustainable materials, but also Warwick Business School has the whole world of sustainability dedicated to it. So I'll just perhaps focus on what I do under the Institute of Global Sustainable Development. And there, well, first of all, I am particularly, I felt very inspired the way Warwick positions itself on the agenda of sustainability, in a sense of setting up the institute back in 2018 to sit above all 3 faculties at the university in order precisely to work with all 3 of them and so many different departments to ensure that we focus collectively and interdisciplinary on trying to tackle challenges of planetary proportion. So in that sense, if I were to speak more specifically about IGSD, the Institute of Global Sustainable Development, there we set ourselves in 3 particular thematic directions. One is environmental governance, what particular models of governance we should seek in order to ensure that we're staying connected to communities on the ground, but also translated well into policy and practice. The second one is about climate change, and we have the whole range of different researchers focusing particularly on water security, but also air pollution and other challenges. And the third leg to that would be resilience and self-governance, which I in particular lead. They're trying precisely to understand what makes communities resilient in how they respond to global challenges, and how they survive and how they deal and how they transform with all those challenges. So if I were to mention the 3 particular best things that I think are particularly impressive about the work that the university and IGSD in particular does in that field, I would say, well, first of all, the way we work, we're trying to work with communities. Of course, it's a very long way to perfect it. But we had a number of projects, and one of them was led also by IGSD. We engaged with impoverished communities in Coventry and to work on specific, for example, on specific issues of, like, for example, air pollution. And we worked with schools for primary and secondary level. And the whole community took up on that particular initiative. And it was interesting how then we deployed, we explained, the university was also there just in an advisory position. So in a way, the university then, we talked about citizen juries, and then the communities run away, taking that particular idea on board in order then to put all that knowledge and also hold their local councils to account in terms of actually demanding action, and from monitoring air pollution then to taking it to councils. It was absolutely amazing. So that's one thing. The second thing I would mention is...
Elena, you just have to speed up a little bit.
Okay, Sustainability Training School, which now we've launched it now here at COP. We piloted for 2 years. Now we are turning it into a global training school for sustainable futures, which brings basically early career researchers together. We expose them to interdisciplinary methodologies, critical theories, and so on. But then also they go and do it as group projects and place-based projects in their specific communities. The third one I would mention is precisely Sustainability Spotlight, which basically it's the university initiative that brought over 2,000 researchers together to work interdisciplinary, specifically on those sustainable solutions. And I think having that dialogue really is very, very important for kind of going forward, especially in a complex environment that we found ourselves in.
Thank you very much. I think you gave, we can see the differences a little bit between Angie and Elena. And now I'll pass on to Julia.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Nice to be here in this position and an event, the first one indeed, organized by Nova at COP. I do believe, and I want to believe, that this is the first of the many others in the years to come. Nova is not so huge universities as yours. We have a little bit more than 25,000 students, but we have 9 campuses covering very different disciplines, spread over 8 campuses in Portugal, plus 1 in Cairo, Egypt, running in the last 2 years. We tackled, one of the things that I was very happy when I take the job as a prorector for sustainability at Nova is that on the first meeting I realized that was fully backed by all the deans of the schools. But one thing is to be backed by the deans because they have the ideas as strategical. Another thing is the daily life. But we have the opportunity to talk about that. Anyway, I would like to stress here 3 points. I think the first one is to mention that Nova is one of the first schools, not in Portugal, but indeed in the world, that create environmental engineering program in the early 1978 as a program by itself, not included in the civil engineering department and so on. It was a completely fully dedicated program by that time. It was very pioneer indeed. And during these last 40 years, it has been proved a huge success in different parts of the market, national, international. Another thing to refer is the type of research that we have in many areas with impact-based. For example, I would like to mention a group on energy and climate change that for more than 15 years we work very close to stakeholders and support the governments, no matter it is right or left wing. We be there supporting with science-based tools, modeling tools to make projections, but always in a conversation, open conversation with stakeholders, from industry, for smaller companies, for the local communities, in order to co-create this future that should support this commitment. Otherwise, it's only words. And finally, the third one is a very recent one. We were able to launch this year all the process. We are in the starting process, in the starting phase to launch all the process to develop this roadmap to Nova come with a commitment to become carbon neutral and climate resilient. I have to say that at this moment we have involved more than 200 persons at Nova University, and we are doing, as I said, the stone way, you know, preparing all the stuff for information system and the those scope 3 emissions estimation to capture the dean's attention and time to work with us on a visioning exercise to 2040 in order to understand what all of them want to know to the future in order to come up with this goal, hopefully to be announced next year.
So you're very good academics because we ask you to answer in 3 minutes and you take 5 to 6. So
you should only ask for one best.
Exactly,
not
exactly.
Three.
I'm still learning. But now I really would like to ask you to keep for the 3 minutes, such that we have the 3 opportunities of questions. And the second question, actually, Angie talked about it. Usually we start with the failures or the bad points. But this time we started with the good things. Now we go to the bad things. So what are the key obstacles that you actually find in the role of higher education towards this engagement in society for a better future in terms of sustainability and particularly climate change action?
Yeah, I'll definitely be quicker on this one. I think the first thing I'd say in terms of education is that there is just a huge demand from students now for sustainability to be integrated into absolutely every course. And I think there is still a significant amount of work, despite the strategic lead that we have. You're absolutely right, Julia, that it's about how do you actually make it happen in practice. So I think getting it embedded into courses is still something we need to work on. I think the second thing I would say is that as we are rolling this out and systematizing it, there's some challenges with coordination and governance. This is everybody's business, but we're not at the point where everybody is doing it. And so trying to work out who's doing what within the organisation, making sure that we're not duplicating, making sure that we're filling gaps, and we're approaching this problem in a coordinated way is a challenge in a big institution. And then the third thing I'd say is that whilst quite a lot of our funding comes from industry and philanthropy, which tends to be much more mission-focused, Research Council funding and the way academics are rewarded doesn't actually encourage impact-based transdisciplinary work. It is still very siloed. And so I think that's something that needs to change.
Yeah. Elena, yes?
Thank you. I'll also will be brief because I think a lot of challenges that Angie already mentioned that are definitely we're very familiar with in the UK higher education environment. I would like to emphasize that indeed, kind of undertaking that kind of mapping exercise and trying to connect the dots indeed in order to avoid duplication and mapping and understanding the landscape for delivering and teaching and research in sustainability is one of the major challenges, connecting the dots, to put it simply. And the second one, I think, is we still tend to work in silos in a way that the university lives in its own world, in its own bubble, research bubble, and then, of course, there is the much bigger world elsewhere. So what we are trying to do is to try and build that bridge both with the community of stakeholders and also taking that research-led knowledge generated to the policy world so that decisions that are made by our governments, they're policy informed. So I would highlight this possibly as two most enduring problems that we need to work with.
No, they're quite relevant. And Julia?
Yeah, I would like to underline what Angel just said, because for me, for universities, the big problem is to how introduce climate change or other SDGs in education. we are still educating and training people in silos. We are putting in the market civil engineers with a mindset from 20th century. We are putting in the market people on law and on architecture and so on. I know there are some tips here and there in the programs highlighting something, but as far as I know, at least from Nova University and others, it's not a problem on Nova, is very small and not in a coherent way. Working on sustainability, no matter what the disciplinary area, requires three things at least. A systemic thinking, and this is a mindset that will, goes with the student and the professional to the rest of his or her life. The second thing, which is very difficult indeed, is tools and concepts for the long-term accountability. What does it mean not in the next 10 or 20 years, but in the next 30 or 40 years? This is very hard to teach, but we have to put on the table to all disciplines. So my point is why this is so difficult to implement this in university, because you have different schools, different departments, all of them very brilliant in their areas, but that is we have to connect the dots. So what is the problem? One of the things is most of the professors, and we have to say it loudly, most of the professors, they don't know how to do that. So we have to prepare tools, we have to prepare some mechanisms to advise the professors to do that. Another thing is to change the pedagogical model they use, because all of them, most of them at least, not all of them I would say, still use a very conventional way to teach. And indeed universities are not only anymore teaching labs, they are learning labs. The focus should be put in the other side. And finally, we have also to talk with the national accreditation agencies, because they are also, at least I found them, quite conventional on them. So I think universities, at a very strategical level, we have quite a lot to do, and maybe we have to learn with each other about that, how to do that.
No, I think it's quite fun, I would say. I think we all know that the need of integration is key, but we still lack a lot of implementation, I would say, and we have a lot of challenges ahead. But definitely, my feeling is that at the higher education, we're very good on knowing what we have to overcome, but we still don't do it as we should. I appreciated one of the comments from Julia, that is this need for capacity building by the lecturers themselves. So usually we are the ones supposedly to actually capacitate the students, but I think we really need to re-emphasize the need for ourselves, particularly in this interface with the society. And so we're here to learn, and I would like to ask you the final question, which is, what can you tell us about the most innovative actions, tools, proposals for the near future in this area of sustainability? We from what you said, we have a long way to go, but can we actually highlight a few of those aspects? And Elena will use a few slides, also just one or two to illustrate that, but go ahead, Angie.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we are really focusing on much more now is a sort of living labs approach, where we are doing demonstration projects, we are bringing lots of different people together to solve problems. And so we're taking some of the, one example that we're doing at Monash is that we're taking the learning that we've got from decarbonising our own campus and now making that much broader into the precinct where our main campus sits. So there's technology organisations there, there's industry, there's a hospital, there's going to be a new rail suburban loop there. So we're bringing together really interesting partners, so design anthropologists with system transitions people, with engineers, with health people, to try to work together to work out how do we transition the entire precinct as a collective. And that's, thrown up all sorts of very interesting issues around governance, who pays, who's in charge, all of those sorts of things. But I genuinely think it's one of the ways forward. And I think for Monash, the other thing that we're very aware of is our situation in that geopolitical context. That Asia, the Asia Pacific, is such a vastly, rapidly developing area of the world, and emissions are increasing really rapidly there. GDP is increasing very rapidly there. So I think we feel a responsibility to work with our neighbours in the area to help them progress in a way that means that they're not producing emissions that they don't need to do so. So looking at novel approaches. So I think those are two things that I'd point to.
Good, Elena.
Great. Thank you very much. I would like to highlight one particular innovation that we're currently working on. We call it Training Academy for Sustainable Futures. At the moment, we are aiming at early career researchers. So we piloted that initiative in IGSD for about 2 years, bringing together about 20 to 25 global early career researchers, and they have to be interdisciplinary. So in one room, you will find, from engineers, chemists, biologists, sitting together with, filmmakers, artists, literary scholars, but also social scientists. And the idea is, so they come to that school, they have to be exposed to 4 elements. First, they present the individual projects they're working on. We normally theme our training schools, for example, with a focus on water. That was last year's one. So they all come together to present their individual projects to receive feedback. But most importantly, then they're exposed to interdisciplinary methodologies. Then we have critical concepts. Yes, that's perfect, thank you. Critical concepts. And then I think most importantly here is creative skills. Because I think once we move out, try to be pushed out our comfort zone into a set of trying to think about the world and the problem creatively, we probably will be at least 1/3 of the way there to finding to thinking about the right solutions, designing more sustainable and alternative futures if we are unhappy with the real world we live in. So that was, we piloted before. Now what we are going to do is we're going to launch that part in Venice, and Venice is the best place, I think, for that, because we have a campus, not just because we have a campus there, but also Venice itself lends as a city, because then all these ECRs, they will be put in group projects, and they will have to look at different aspects of how, for example, Venice deals with the problem of climate change. The new element here, and that's where my partners come in here, is that then these ECRs will go to their communities where they come from. For example, here in Azerbaijan, we work with the Institute of Development and Diplomacy, and there is one in Uzbekistan, the Institute for Advanced International Studies. So these early career researchers then will go back to communities, and there are place-based centers whereby they will engage with the needs of those communities with all that creative skills and knowledge they receive in order to work more specifically in bespoke way to precisely tackle challenges on the ground. This is interdisciplinary, this is innovative, and this is place-based. And I think, for example, Lankaran, just to mention here, Lankaran focuses on sustainable farming. but they don't really know, well, first of all, there is very limited knowledge what exactly sustainability means. And to bring it to communities, to enable youth to think more creatively about all the solutions, to engage with farmers into sustainable development, I think that will give us totally new lease of life, I hope, in terms of bringing our research to communities. Yeah.
Elena, I don't know if these are the right slides or not. Do you want me to?
That's about Warwick, and if you keep going, please. That's our partner in Azerbaijan, in Baku, IDD. You can see it here, Institute for Development and Diplomacy, with whom we are going to put it to practice. The next one, please. That's our partner in Uzbekistan we are going to work with to bring that project to place based in Bukhara. And the final one actually gives a bit more information about the actual project itself, how we're going to do it in practice. So I'm particularly grateful to our partners here, and especially to our Azeri community, for helping to support this and to get it going. So knowledge to practice, and I think that matters.
Thank you very much. Julia,
Yeah,
please.
I will pick up not 3 but 2 plans because we are almost finishing. At this moment, we are working in an initiative that we will be launched next spring 2025, which is to go with all PhD students that are starting at Nova, no matter what is the field, if it is chemistry or finance or law or anthropology. The idea is that you are developing is as an initiative, a kind of doctoral doctoral school course, in order to answer the question, how can I take the SDG framework in my research plan? Because we believe that there is no research that would not be aligned with the SDG. So this is the point. Another thing is regard to this roadmap to the climate neutrality and the resilience that we are developing, and we have this plan, and we have some financial resources to do that, to engage all the higher education institutions in Portugal. It is more than 40 from universities and polytechnics institutes, in order to engage them and mobilize them to the same and common goals. And this is very important, not only because of the purpose, not only to share how to do these things, but mostly and also to align all the higher education institutions for a very particular point or issue that is very important. Almost of them are public institutions. This means that we do not have so much money. And for example, at Nova, we have an envelope of new investments, including new buildings. And indeed, if you want to align the new buildings with very high standards of net zero, it costs a little bit more. Of course, we know that it will be returned along the operation of the building, but we have to have upfront capital. And we do not have this from the state budget. So we have to understand what type of financial model or vehicle to finance this additional that you have to put in order to advance as with our campus to become living labs. Because it's quite strange to teach or to speak with the students about carbon neutrality issues, and we look around and we are not taking the proper actions, but we do not have money to do that. So we started this conversation last October with several universities, I mean at the rector level, and I'm pretty sure that we have to go ahead in order to understand what would be the vehicle that the public universities at least could have access to financial financial resource to go ahead with that.
So we're supposed to finish around 3:15, but you have
4:15.
sorry 4:15. But if you have any, I only disagreed a little bit with you, Julia, when you said that it's only a little bit. It's a lot of financing sometimes that you really need to, if you want to incorporate all all the sustainability requests. So, but we still have 4 to 5 minutes. So I'd like to ask the audience if you have any question, and there is a question. Please. Oh, there is a microphone.
Thank you.
It's working.
It's working? Okay, thank you for this excellent discussion.
Can you start by presenting yourself?
Oh, yes. Teresa Poncelian from the National Laboratory of Energy and Geology. By the way, I'm also professor at the Faculty of Engineering in the University of Porto. And I would like to thank for this open, fantastic discussion. It's Julia, you told about the needs of the sustainability teaching, and it's about learning, not teaching. It's really my opinion, and I would like to share with you that when I propose master thesis or doctoral thesis at my university, always in these topics, they love it, and they choose because they say, we do not learn this at along the course. So it's really important, and my question is, how to put this in practice? I'm trying, but maybe you could share more important ideas than those that I have.
Yeah, I mean, at this moment, you have this type of quite conventional and very conservative professors, but we also have other that are putting something in practice. But indeed, I think you have to work at a very high level. I mean, honestly speaking, I think universities should approach the accreditation agency in Portugal and work with them in order to understand how to figure out as a request to approve a new course or to renew the certification of the course. I think this could be maybe not so easy, but the more effective way to approach the stuff. And of course, to develop some type of tools in order to assess or to support, better saying, the professors who want to make this adjustment, let's say, in their courses. Yeah.
There is another question here. I would say the last question because we have now 2 minutes only.
Thank you so much. Thank you for a wonderful discussion. My name is Zoe. I'm a part of QS, company that you might have heard of because of rankings. Sorry.
Yeah.
But my project sit with student experiences and SDGs. And thank you for your question because that was a perfect pass. Because it's wonderful to hear your experiences. But I think maybe two little elements that are missing is you're doing great jobs. Each of the universities are doing wonderful jobs. But the storytelling to the outer world, and you've mentioned accreditation bodies, I would say go bigger. Go to like companies like QS, THEs and others, The Economist, and share your stories with them, because then that's a pressure that is put on your leaders to finance more initiatives of this sort, incorporate into curriculum. But also one thing that we see and becoming very popular, and we've been growing this also as QS for 5 years now, experiential learning. When we have students from all the continents coming to the Future 17 SDG Challenge, and they are matched with the projects from companies, governments, state agencies, and they work in intercultural, interdisciplinary, multi-degree teams on real-life tasks as a part of curriculum. And then they get this as a credit into their transcripts, and then I'm very proud to say 30% of our students get internships, and this year we started getting first full-time job offers when a PhD from USP is now working for one of the British funds. So it's not so much a question, I'm sure you've got all this, but it's more like a cry for your stories to be told through global platforms to encourage more of these experiences put in place, but also to encourage your bosses to invest a little bit more in not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. Thank you so much for the panel.
Oh, and okay, we have a final 30 seconds question.
Yes, just to add, not only like a question, I'm Jorge Cristino, and I'm only a curiosity. So nowadays I also work in a private company, and say that nowadays it's very difficult also to adapt most of PhD and doctoral programs to those that are in working at the same time. So this link between the not only looking like this type of areas in a lifelong learning process, that it's not only the youngsters, not only the young people that can have beautiful telling stories for inspiring people, but also during all the career. And nowadays, this is not only to produce knowledge, that is very important in terms of research and development and so on, but also to richness the companies and all the process.
Okay, so a comment, a 10 seconds comment from you, but basically I think that in this case it was more kind of an observation than a question. So in one word, and we didn't talk about this, in one word to finish up, what would you select as the most important? What would be the most important word for higher education to actually implement the SDGs and make their way forward?
I'm going to steal Julia's point about learning.
Learning. Good. Elena, no slides on this.
To remain critical, because when you're critical, you drive, you keep everyone accountable, but also you drive the curve, the learning
Okay,
process.
learning, critical, and you had more time, Julia. So
No, it's not easy. Universities should lead the way, and they are sometimes they are not doing that. We have
leadership.
to recover that
Good.
role.
Learning, 2 L's and 1 C. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you to all of you here for your questions and for your attendance. And of course to the others that are following us at home or in the recording. I think that this discussion here about the role of universities on sustainable development and climate change was an excellent view from different parts of the world. We would like also to have the global souths more involved, but there was one of the persons that could not attend. But definitely you have a lot of suggestions and point of views from these last 45 minutes. Thank you very much. An applause to all of you and the panelists.